Let's talk about Meghan and Harry, because, of course, one of the questions I'm asking this morning is about Harry's Netflix documentary failing to reach the top 10. I think that Invictus, I give absolute credit to Harry for Invictus. I think it's the most phenomenal thing he's actually ever done. I really do. And I think that had he stayed on that route, you and I have spoken about this many times before, had he stayed on that route, I think he would be an absolute national treasure now. And it would be, it would align so brilliantly with William's future as well, with Prince William, because Prince William is going to be Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. If Harry had carved himself out as you know what, once you're finished with the Armed Forces, I am going to carve out a role of looking after you once you're done, I think that that could have been somewhere where he would have made the most phenomenal difference when it came to public life. And so credit to him on Invictus. I think that that is phenomenal, but people just aren't watching the documentary about it, are they?
And I, just to your point, I don't think that it's over for him. He could still change direction. I still think that there's hope, if that's, because I think that that's a sincere passion of his. So I do hope that he readjusts his focus and pursues more of telling other people's stories versus rehashing his own. Why do I think it hasn't cracked? Well, first of all, I noticed immediately that I kept stressing when Suits was, kicking butt on Netflix. Well, Netflix is shoving it down our throats. I mean, every time I turn on Netflix, there's a half-naked woman with the logo Suits across it at the very top. Like how that they were shoving it down our throats. They're not pushing Heart of Invictus the way that they pushed Suits. They're not pushing it. It's their own algorithm, and they aren't pushing it.
But
so
doesn't in defense of Netflix on that though, isn't the reason doesn't it all work as via an algorithm? And if people were watching it, it gets pushed more, and if it gets pushed more people watch it, so it becomes self-fulfilling. And if it isn't getting that initial engagement,
they could put it at the top. They could put it at the top. And that's what they do with the shows that they want you to love, like Bridgerton or The Crown. When The Crown first comes out,
but don't they rate first? I don't know whether it's chicken or egg.
No, it's what we're promoting. That's why Suits was at the top, and that's why Suits became the #1 show this summer, was because somebody took their pointer finger in their mouse on their computer and put that at the top and said, push hit, spotlight. We're going to spotlight Suits. So Invictus isn't being given the same amount of attention that other Netflix programs have got, certainly not what Harry and Meghan's docuseries got. And, maybe some executives sat back and watched it and said, this is good, but this isn't what we signed up for. So just get it up there. But this isn't necessarily something we're gonna shove down everyone's throats. I don't know. But yeah, I also think people are tired of Harry and Meghan a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder whether now, I'm not sure I completely agree that Harry could bring it back when it comes to the brilliant work he does with Invictus, because I'm not sure that anyone watches the stuff that they do now and watches it thinking that they've got sincere or pure hearts, because they've done so much through the prism of doing it to slag off the royals, that even now, you saw the reporting about the Invictus documentary, when he said, oh, look, I didn't get much support when I came back from my tours of Afghanistan. And that might well be a fair point. He might well have been saying that and not making a dig at the royal family. But the problem is now that everything he does, because of his history writing the book Spare and the last documentary and the Oprah interview and everything else, is seen through the prism of him having a dig at the royal family. And I think people are a bit sick of it. So I wonder whether he would ever be able to turn it around now.
I mean, I've said it for years. I think they have to go away for a little while and do some behind-the-scenes work. But, they are pretty shameless. It's Mohammed Al-Fayed dead a day after the anniversary of Princess Diana's 26th, death anniversary. And Meghan is shaking her tail feather at the Beyonce concert and losing her mind. It's like, to me, it's the perfect example of why they did not fit into the royal family. They don't understand the concept of common sense when
duty,
something's appropriate.
Restraint.
Yes.
It's unfortunately, you do have to have a level of narcissism to be in the royal family and to be a success, but you can't out narcissist other members, you know, and they do. We're going to save the video that you've exclusively given us, Kinsey, till the end. We're going to do the best till last, because we've got a couple of other stories that I want to explore with you first. But I've got a couple of tweets for you, Kinsey, as well.
Oh, no.
Thomas says hello.
Hello, Thomas.
Says, hello to my green card buddy, Kinsey. So still willing to marry you in order to get you citizenship here in the UK. That's the good news. The bad news is that we will have to put you on a barge for a year in order to grant you that citizenship. So I hope you're all right with that and you're not afraid of water. Another one here as well. Please, will you ask Kinsey, I don't know who this is from, hang on, John from Wales, why did the French cover up details of Diana's death for 75 years until 2082? Yes, of course. The people who attended the ambulance, paramedics as well, that's all signed and locked away under the French Official Secrets Act, isn't it, any of that information?
Why did they do that?
Yes.
Is that what the question is?
Yes.
I mean, I think that obviously it's a poor reflection on their country to lose such a significant... I mean, Cristo, I just was looking at some recent polling. To this day, Diana is the #1 most popular figure of the royal family. She comes, in this polling, she came before Moses and before, I can't remember who else.
Moses in the royal family?
No. I'm talking about additional polling. She came before Moses and like some other big, like Helen Keller, for like people that changed the world and made it a better place. I mean, this was just such a huge figure that I think that the French are very protective over, you know, details that might reflect poorly on them. But I kind of, Michael Cole is a better individual to talk to if you want to talk about a cover up or a conspiracy. I truly am under the impression that she was in a vehicle, not wearing her seatbelt, with a perhaps intoxicated individual behind the wheel, and they were going way too fast. So that's really the way I feel about the death. But if you are looking for somebody that will talk conspiracy and will engage with that, Michael Cole is an incredibly knowledgeable individual.
Yeah. I'm going to reserve comment on what I think about all of that. I mean, it just seems a little bit strange that the crash happened, I think, at 12 minutes to 1, and she didn't actually...
And it took so long to get her.
An hour and 40 minutes to get her to Le Petit Salpêtrière Hospital when there were 2 other hospitals that were nearer. The fact that Henri Paul's initial... I'm not joining the dots to say that something sinister happened. I just want to make that clear. All I am saying is that I think there are questions around the autopsy, the results, the amount of time it took her to get to hospital, the fact the coroner was never called when it came to the inquest, that should be answered. I don't think that I'm not joining the dots to say, oh, that means that there's some sort of terrible conspiracy here, but I do think there are still questions that aren't answered about it, that why it is that these things are sealed for 75 years. Those are all valid questions that people have.
No, absolutely.
It would be great to get answers, because without those answers, people do join the dots and say, look, something terribly sinister happened. So thank you for that question. All right, now let's talk about, what would the Queen think about Harry? What did she think about Harry before she died? Because, of course, we're just a week away from the first anniversary of the late Queen and her passing.
Correct. This is coming from Giles Brandwith, who you and I have nothing but positive things to say about on this program. We've stressed before on our podcast as well how incredibly connected Giles is. Just recently, he was seen with Queen Consort Camilla at a poetry event, sitting side by side. These two are very close. So he's written an article in the Daily Mail explaining that the Queen was not necessarily worried about Harry's book. She had accepted the fact that it was very important to Harry that his truth be out, his side of the story. However, after reading the book, Giles believes that the Queen would be appalled by what Prince Harry shared. And he's specific about the Todger and the Elizabeth Arden and all that stuff. So he believes that the Queen was not necessarily worried about this book before her death. He said it didn't lead to her death. Like she wasn't stressed prior to her death about Harry. But after reading what was inside, he said that she would be disappointed. But
because
he
of course
also
it was released after her death. Let's just remind people of that. So she never actually got to know the precise details of what was in the book. But his point is that had she lived to see it, it would have been very disappointing for her.
Yeah, and I want to just quickly get this in as well. He said that when privately Prince William made the comment to somebody about Harry's book, he jokingly said recollections may vary, because that is their go-to iconic line. But then he added, in this instance, they most definitely do. So calling Spare, another lie, and Harry reinventing his past yet again. And Giles says that he is angry that Harry went into some of their tips, but he is especially angry that Harry addressed Catherine and Meghan's issues, that crossed the line to Prince William. And again, I mean, I take this stuff very seriously because Giles sitting there, the royals continued to associate with him even after he, wrote that the Queen passed a blood cancer and things like that. If he was dishonest, if he was saying things that weren't true, he would not have access to the Queen consort today. And
what's interesting as well, and why I think that he is also a credible source, is that it's very easy when you are a source or someone that is acting as something of a mouthpiece for the royal family to throw everything at the wall. And he's not done that. He's actually said, you know what, some the Queen wasn't that worried about the book before she died. Now, he could have said, she'd have hated the book and she was desperately worried about it before she died. But he hasn't done that. He's tempered it. He said, you know what, no, she wasn't that worried about this, but William was upset about this. That says to me that he's credible.
Right, because there was that one report that came out when I was there recently, that the Queen said that Meghan was a bad word that I wouldn't repeat on television anyway. And I thought, there's no way that's true. And so, I mean,
evil. The word is evil, right?
Oh, yeah. Why did I think it was like a bad word? Why did I think... I must have been like dramatizing.
But that I wasn't going to talk about that, but you've brought it up now, so, we will. Because you have no shame. But I think... No, you're right. And I think that sometimes you do read these things and you think, how credible is that? Would she have used that kind of language? And you don't know. But Giles Brandreth, you don't generally get that from him, which is why I think that he is a little bit more balanced and a little bit more credible.
I agree, yes.
OK, now, the death of Queen Elizabeth has had an effect on the way in which the royals are seen by America, right?
That's true. There was a recent poll in the United States. It's Express. The Express U.S. version has something to do with it. And they polled 1,500 people in the States, and 91% said that they missed Queen Elizabeth being head of the royal family, and over 50% said that the royal family was less relevant with King Charles as, the face of the monarchy. I don't know. Those are some tough numbers.
They are, but then I wouldn't be surprised by those numbers as well, because I would just say, well, of course.
Yeah, I'm also like, who cares? He's not our king. So why do you guys care what we think? Is honestly what my initial reaction to that article. While I do think it's interesting, is like, we don't matter.
Yeah, and I think as well that King Charles would always suffer slightly because of the association with Diana and all of that.
Harry and Meghan.
And Harry and Meghan. I think that will go up every year as people get more used to King Charles. But I think when it will skyrocket will be when it's King William and Queen Catherine. I think when that happens, I think the Americans, because it's Diana's son, because there is just a special way in which I think the Americans, when you look at how many of them watch their wedding, all of that sort of stuff, I think that will absolutely skyrocket. If, of course, Harry and Meghan haven't chucked any other missiles or bullets at them, metaphorically speaking, over the course of the next few years. Now, you mentioned Meghan partying the day after Was it the day after or the day before the anniversary of Diana's death that she was partying?
It's the day after Diana's death, but at the time that they were doing this, I know that they knew that Mohammed Al Fayed had passed, and I just also thought that that was a little strange to be partying in the midst of those headlines, because Mohammed Al Fayed dying brings up Diana yet again, day 2.
There she is.
So
She's
this
on the
is
screen.
Yes, and this is my friend Matt that took this video. He was next to her at the concert. He stresses that Prince Harry was having a blast. He wasn't miserable despite the pictures. But and look, I've said a million times about Harry and Meghan, they shouldn't dwell on the past. They shouldn't dwell on the past. So maybe I'm in the wrong here to say that it was inappropriate for them to be twerking the day after Diana died. But I just thought it was just kind of cringe. It's just absolutely cringe behavior in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's the optics that aren't good, but that's bad advice as well. But they probably should know for themselves that. But also, that's not. We talk about whether they are able to be royal. That's not very royal.
It's not at all. It's not at all. And for Harry to have all of these special opportunities where he knows all eyes are going to be on him, but say to us, I'm having a hard time moving on, and to remind us of his past, but then to be out, partying at the Beyonce concert so close to the anniversary of his mother's death. It's just kind of like, well, are you being honest with us? Because I don't trust.
At the end of the day, that is how Duke and Duchess D-list will probably act when it comes to these sorts of things. That is exclusive video, by the way, which has not been seen anywhere else. And Kinsey, we thank you very much indeed for us. How long have we got? We've got 20 seconds left. Kinsey, very, very quick question for you before we go. Simon from Hull, who's your favourite royal and least favourite royal, alive or dead?
Oh, my favorite royal is Princess Diana, and my least favorite royal is probably Wallis Simpson.
I love Wallis Simpson. Oh, my word. There's a podcast in that as well. We're recording on Monday night, so you'll get some more coming up from Kinsey and I. But in the meantime, thank you, Kinsey Schofield.